Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today, as you see in the title, I am going to break down the basics of the ketogenic diet so you guys can stay informed when you are making any type of nutrition or dietary choices. So as you saw in the last video, I have my handy dandy notes just to make sure I cover everything. This is all coming from a nutritionist perspective. Again, I am not recommending anyone try this diet. This is not medical advice or dietary advice. This is just me giving you the facts straightforward so you guys can make your own informed decisions and feel confident in what you choose to do regarding your health and your wellness. So let's hop right into it. So the ketogenic diet is a high fat, low carb, and a low protein diet. There's a lot of confusion there with the protein component. I've noticed in a lot of articles that I was reading before making this video that protein really isn't mentioned a lot. You kind of have to dig for it. And if you're just, regular Joe Schmo Googling, low carb or ketogenic diets because you heard about it from a friend or whatever, protein's not going to be mentioned too frequently. So to give you the percentages, it's an 80% fat, 5% carb, and 15% protein. So 80% of your calories should come from fat, 5% should come from carbohydrate, and then 15% should come from protein sources. Now, the ketogenic diet was originally developed for patients that had epilepsy because of its benefits to supporting brain health and conditions like epilepsy, along with other brain-related disease states, which I will get into in just a second. So now that we've gone over the very basics, I'm going to walk you through some foods that you are allowed to have on the ketogenic diet. And I have my handy dandy list just so I don't forget any. So foods that you can have on the ketogenic diet. So meat, so red meat, dark meat, poultry, sausage, bacon, chicken, and turkey. You're going to want to go for the higher fat meats versus the lower fat meat or poultry options. Because you want to make sure that you're keeping your protein intake at that 15% mark. You really don't want to go above that too much. Fatty fish like salmon. You can have eggs, so the whole egg, not just egg whites, right? Really good for omega-3s and a food source of vitamin D. Butter. And if you are eating dairy, you can have whole milk, heavy cream, cheese, nuts and seeds, avocado, olive oil, olives, coconut oil, low carb veggies. So pretty much anything that's green, that's a vegetable, you can have. So like spinach, kale, zucchini. You can also have tomatoes, peppers. This list says onions, but onions I believe are a little too high carb for keto, but you guys can check in on that if you want. And then condiments that you can really use are mustard and then seasoning like salt and pepper and garlic and whatever else you want to throw in there. So those are the foods that you can have. Now you're like, okay, Jack, that's great. What should I be avoiding? What can I not have in my daily diet if I choose to do a ketogenic diet? So here is a quick breakdown of what you can't have. So sugary foods like soda, juice, smoothies, cake, ice cream, candy. I mean, those are pretty self-explanatory. Those are very high sugar, highly processed foods, so you really shouldn't be eating them anyway, or at least frequently. Grains or starches. So wheat-based products like bread, pasta. You also can't have whole grains like rice or oats or quinoa. Quinoa is technically a seed, but can't have quinoa because it's too high carb. Fruit, except for very, very, very tiny portions of berries because they're the lowest sugar, highest fiber fruit and have the lowest carb count. Beans or legumes, so forget lentils or chickpeas or black beans, kidney beans, whatever. Can't have that, too high carb. Root vegetables, so like potatoes, sweet potatoes, the squashes are all out. Low fat or diet products because they're typically very high in sugar and high in carb, low fat. From the high carb, low fat craze, a lot of those products are still on the shelf, so you really have to avoid those. Snackwells pops in my mind. Any other millennials out there? I'm a millennial, so Snackwells kind of just pops for me. Unhealthy fats you want to avoid just because they're not good for your health, like mayonnaise or any trans fats. You kind of really want to take those out of your diet if they are in it. Margarine is another thing you want to take out. Alcohol due to the carb content, and then sugar-free diet foods. So the reason being is because non-sugar diet foods usually contain sugar alcohols, and supposedly that can alter your ketone levels. So it can throw you out of ketosis, so out of that fat burning mode. So you want to avoid those types of foods. Now, the basics, like the basics of this diet essentially is your body is using fat for energy, as opposed to carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the preferred source of energy of the body. So if you're eating carbohydrates and fats, your body will always defer to carbohydrates first, use that for energy. And then it can also use fat for energy, but if you have eaten enough carbohydrates, any excess fat that you've eaten will be stored for later as like a backup energy source. So if you take carbs away, then your body can only defer to fats for energy. So what ends up happening is your liver creates ketone bodies, which are the energy source that your body will transition to use when you transition into ketosis. Now, transitioning into this diet can be a little arduous or a little rough because there's something called the ketogenic flu. So that transition from burning carbs to burning fat for energy can literally feel like the flu. You can feel fatigue, muscle aches, brain fog. You're really just going to feel sick for a few days or even a few weeks. It really depends on the person. I've heard some people having no experience with the keto flu when transitioning into this diet. So again, just be prepared, do your research, and know what may or may not happen with your body. So let's hop right into the research-related benefits. Again, I have my handy notes just so I make sure I cover everything with you guys. So obviously the most touted benefit for the ketogenic diet and the most popular is weight loss. So when you are reducing carbohydrates and increasing fat intake for energy, the theory behind this diet is that your body will also break down use its own fat for energy. So that will lead to fat loss and the type of weight loss that you're looking for, because weight loss can mean so many different things. It can mean drop in water retention, which actually happens with this diet as well, because if you're decreasing carbohydrates, you're not going to be retaining as much water. So weight loss is a big one. Blood sugar management. So this diet, there's a lot of research showing that this may be beneficial to anyone who's experiencing something called insulin resistance. So that's a term that we hear a lot with people who have pre-diabetes or have type 2 diabetes or conditions like PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, where that insulin resistance, it just means that your body is not efficient at using glucose for energy. So the ketogenic diet, because of its high fat, low carb nature, may be beneficial in helping decrease symptoms of these diseases, and helping manage blood sugar, HbA1c, which is the measurement for, or the biomarker that you gauge for, one biomarker for PCOS and then for type 2 diabetes as well. Now, the third research-related benefit is brain health. So like I mentioned earlier, this diet originally was developed for patients who had epilepsy, and it's still used today in their protocol with some patient populations. But there's also some research that has been emerging with regard to the benefit of keto with dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's as well. So it's showing that when these conditions arise, there may be insulin resistance in the brain specifically. So if there's insulin resistance in the brain, your brain cells are not efficient at using glucose for energy to fuel your brain function, right? They actually may be detrimental. So transitioning or using a ketogenic diet in a medical protocol for dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's may be beneficial in help slowing down progression of the disease. I'm not going to say complete cure of the disease. There's no research supporting that, but maybe supporting decrease in symptoms. Okay. Now, I want to make some research callouts because when I was putting this video together for you guys, I reviewed a lot of the research articles, specifically the groups or populations of people that the researchers were using. And majority of them were men. So what does that mean? The positive outcomes that I was seeing with regard to the ketogenic diet were in male populations. I really didn't see too many studies with completely female populations. You're probably like, why, Jack, why does that even matter? It matters because from a hormonal standpoint, women are very different from men. Our hormones shift on a weekly basis during our childbearing years. And then there's a huge shift once we transition into the next life stage when we're going through menopause. So because of these hormonal shifts, our carbohydrate needs actually change. Our insulin sensitivity, how receptive, how efficient our body is at using carbohydrate for energy changes throughout the month, the farther or the closer you are to your period when the bleeding actually starts. So that was one research call out. So this may not be the best option for women. Also, many of the studies have very small sample sizes. Now, what does that mean? A sample size, it simply means the number of people that the researchers used in that study. And guys, I cannot review all research on the ketogenic diet. There are so many research studies, but from what I reviewed, the sample sizes were very small. So what the researchers deduced from these studies, it's very difficult to kind of span their findings across the entire population. That would be very difficult to do. And I'm just not comfortable, stating, yeah, like this one study showed that the ketogenic diet was the optimal diet for weight loss and you should stay on it forever. Because the sample size is so small, you really have to consider other research studies and consider your gender if you're male or female. That makes a big, big difference. Okay, so long term, so to kind of wrap up things, do I think, this is my opinion, again, this is not advice, I'm not encouraging anyone to try anything, this is just my opinion as an integrative nutritionist. Do I think the ketogenic diet is sustainable long term? No, I really don't. And the reason being is, number one, coming from a nutrition standpoint, you're cutting out the most nutrient-dense food group, which are carbohydrates. Think fruits, veggies, whole grains, pretty much all your water-soluble vitamins, so vitamin C and all your B vitamins. And honestly, guys, I don't think I could eat like just spinach and eggs and oil all the time, or just meat and a few berries. To me, from my perspective, that wouldn't be satisfying to me. What if you're going to a party and they have cake? Or what if for me, I'm in New Jersey, what if you're going to the beach and you want to get ice cream in the summer? It kind of not only affects your food choices, it also affects, how you spend your time with your family. And I'm not saying spending time with family is just about food. I'm just saying there are other more manageable ways that you can lose weight and maintain your weight loss without having to cut out a complete food group. Okay. So yeah, hard to maintain. It also may lead to muscle breakdown. So the ketogenic diet can potentially put your body in a catabolic state. So catabolic just means tissue breakdown, specifically your muscle tissue. And the reason being is your body can break down your muscle tissue, convert the amino acids coming from your muscle tissue into glucose, and then use that for energy. Why is that bad? Muscle breakdown can lead to lower metabolic function. Muscle is the most metabolically active, meaning it needs the most energy to sustain itself. So if you have less, you're going to have lower metabolic function. You're going to burn less calories at a rested or active state. You don't want that, you guys. You want to maintain your muscle mass. So this is a risk of the ketogenic diet that I would really look into if I personally was going to try this. I would really think about it first before diving right in. It also may cause a drop in a hormone called T3. So T3 is your active thyroid hormone. It really modulates your thyroid function, your metabolism, inflammation, things like that. So the ketogenic diet potentially, this is just based on research that I've read, may decrease your T3 and increase your reverse T3. So reverse T3 blocks the action of T3, which you don't want to happen, because then again, it lowers your thyroid function, it lowers your metabolic function. So it can affect your sleep, your mood, your energy levels. It can affect a whole plethora, a whole lot of things. Sorry, I'm like using big words now. And it may, over the long term, if you follow a low carb protocol for a very long time, over 6 months, it may lead to hypothyroidism, which is a condition that you really don't want to have, because resolving it is very, very difficult and takes a lot of tweaking nutritionally and with stress management. So that is all I have for you guys. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them below. If you love this video, comment below. Make sure, again, you like and subscribe, show your love. And if you have any topics that you'd like me to cover, put it in the comments. I'll be happy to cover it. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next video.